I knew that day I had to do something, and I sure didn't want anything to do with the 3 prescriptions that my physician handed me. So I tossed those prescriptions in the trash, and I had a heart-to-heart with myself. I had a heart-to-heart with God, and I had a heart-to-heart with my wife at the time. I had to make a change.
Welcome to the Rebel Health Coach Podcast with Tom Underwood. Armed with truth and knowledge, your journey to a healthy lifestyle can be obtained. Preventative wellness, quality nourishment, and daily fitness routines dramatically improve your outlook on life as a whole. And you'll find the support and info you need to accomplish a healthier lifestyle here. Together, we can empower each other along our journey to an amazing you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you may be listening to this episode. Wow, 1 year anniversary episode. Hard to believe it's been a year. And what a year it's been. First, I want to thank you, the listeners, for listening over the past year. Much love and appreciation to you all. I'm so very grateful for each of you. In this episode, I want to talk a little bit about my journey, 3 Roses Wellness. I want to talk about the podcast itself, the Rebel Health Coach Podcast. I also like to discuss what to look forward to over the next year. So grab yourself a cup of 4 Sigmatic coffee with shaga and lion's mane, or a 4 Sigmatic mushroom matcha, or your beverage of choice. Sit back and relax and enjoy. By the way, you can save 10% off 4 Sigmatic by using the code REBELTOM, THOM. That's Rebel, THOM, at checkout, and you will save 10% off. Also, just FYI, shaga works with your body as an adaptogen, helping your system adapt to the day for optimal well-being. I will leave a link for 4 Sigmatic in the show notes. Okay, on with the show, or as they say, the show must go on. In episode 001 with my good friend Tony Lloyd of the Social Entrepreneur Podcast, also best-selling author of Crazy Good Advice, which if you get a chance, go to Amazon and order that book. It's a great little read. It's a bunch of good advice from entrepreneurs all over the world. Tony is also a good friend and mentor and the head of our podcast mastermind group that I'm in. Tony interviewed me to start off the season. In that episode, we covered my journey a bit. But I want to go a little bit deeper into my journey in this episode. Let's just say I've struggled most of my life with the battle of the bulge. In high school, I was heavy. I lost the weight in college. I went into the Navy. I kept the weight off. I got married and gained the weight back. I got divorced and lost the weight. I kept the weight off, and then I got married again and gained the weight back. Yeah, I see a pattern too, but we won't go into that. I guess I get comfortable when I get married. Anyway, in February of 2007, at my yearly physical, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome at a hefty weight pushing 290. This is when I decided that chapter was going to end for me. You see, I lost my father to the very disease I was diagnosed with. He passed away of July 1999, and his birthday is on November 20th. Anyway, so he was almost 64. I knew that day I had to do something, and I sure didn't want anything to do with the 3 prescriptions that my physician handed me. So I tossed those prescriptions in the trash, and I had a heart-to-heart with myself. I had a heart-to-heart with God. And I had a heart-to-heart with my wife at the time. I had to make a change. Otherwise, I was on that path. I changed everything. I didn't have a choice. Yeah, I could have stayed on the meds and lived that way. But why? Why live with a disease in my body that made me feel like crap? My why was staring me in the face. I say that because in order to make a change, your why has to be big enough to change. This is one of the first things that I address with my clients. What is your why? How big is your why? Let's make that why big enough. I made it big enough because I didn't want to live with that disease. And to this day, I don't have that disease anymore. I've reversed that disease. So let's work on your why, because it's so very important to you and your change and your path to changing. My first steps towards working on my why started on a treadmill in the basement where my desk and office were. I got on that treadmill and walked every day. Yeah, it's boring. Very boring. Also, this was in February of 2007. So Nutrisystems was all over the TV and the radio and anywhere you looked, the Nutrisystems. So I enrolled in Nutrisystems. I'll give you a little bit more on that in a minute. Then I got bored with the treadmill. Of course, walking on a treadmill is not very exciting, no matter what you're watching on TV. So I went to my computer and I Googled kickboxing. I found a gym near my house called Knuckle Up Fitness. And I started my journey with Knuckle Up Fitness, taking my first class in kickboxing. That first class kicked my ass. But I found something that was fun. I mean, what's not fun about hitting a bag? You know, you get to hit something for an hour. What could be more fun than that? And it was good for me. But it took me a while till I could make it through that whole hour. Knuckle Up had become part of my life, and it became part of my family. And the people that went to Knuckle Up Fitness became part of my life and part of my family. And to this day are still some very dear friends. I've since moved away from that location and don't go there anymore. Otherwise, I would if I was close to that location. But I don't live near there, so I don't go there. I utilize what my schedule allows me to utilize. And that right now is Orange Theory. And as much as I hate to say it, Planet Fitness, but it is what it is. And I get my workouts in. On to the subject of Nutrisystems for a minute. Nutrisystems basically taught me portion control. But what was in those boxes that they delivered every day or every week to my door was nothing more than garbage, processed foods that you throw in the microwave and heat. I soon realized that these processed foods were not good for me. So I started cooking. And I've always enjoyed cooking, and I love cooking, actually. And I'm a heck of a cook, by the way. But I also realized that I need a menu. I needed some kind of recipe. I needed some kind of format to follow. So I enrolled in a company called eMeals. eMeals would send me a PDF of a menu. At this time, I was doing paleo. So eMeals would send me on a PDF of a 7 days worth of menus or recipes and a shopping list so that I could just take that shopping list to the store and buy the food that was needed to prepare for those meals. And that's what I did. And I enjoyed it. And I did that for quite a few years. Now, fast forward to 2012. I had lost, I was down to 2000. In 2012, I was down to about 210 at that point. So almost a backstreet boy. Not quite. Well, at that time, I wanted to go more. Basically, I wanted to lose more weight and get fitter. So I signed on with a popular multi-level marketing company. And I'm not going to mention the name because their products are very good. And I'm not going to bash them because their products are very good. And I'm not bashing multi-level marketing companies, because if you work for a corporation, you're working for a multi-level marketing company. I don't care how you slice it or how long you want to argue that, because I will argue it with you. But I noticed one thing during this 2013. I wasn't doing very good at it, because I'm not very good at pushing products on people. So towards the end of 2013, I was in this group, and I had been using the product for a year or a little over a year now. And I had lost the weight. I was down to 180, 185, and I was in good shape. But one thing that rubbed me the wrong way is these people in my group, they were promoting themselves as health coaches, which rubbed me the wrong way, because they weren't health coaches. They were coaches. I'll give them that. They were coaching people how to lose weight. They were coaching people how to use the product, but they weren't health coaches. So I quit using the product because it was expensive and I wasn't making any damn money at it. So I found other means and supplements to take that gave me the same benefits that those supplements were giving me, and less money. And I decided that I wanted to be a health coach. So I went to Google once again, and Google's your friend, and Google can also be your enemy. Example, if you Google headache, you'll find a lot of stuff on there about headaches. And if you're looking for, if you have a migraine headache and you start Googling migraines, you will be going to the doctor saying, hey, I think I'm dying. And I think I have a brain aneurysm or whatever. But be careful with Google, is all I'm saying. Anyway, I found a great gym through Google, and I found Institute of Integrative Nutrition through Google, which I enrolled in March of 2014 and successfully completed in 2015, March of 2015. I learned a lot that year. I learned over 100 diets. I learned from some of the greats. I learned from a lot of doctors. I've learned a lot of information. I also learned that the term bioindividuality, that I continue to teach you how I lost my weight, but how I lost my weight might not help you. I can't eat a banana every day. A lot of people can eat bananas. I can't. It's too much sugar for me. I gain weight rapidly. That's bioindividuality. What fits me and my body might not work for you. So I had a couple clients. I had one with high blood pressure, and I did get him off the blood pressure medication during that time. I coached him. But I realized that God made us all different, unique individuals, and that a headache is a gift, and there's a deeper cause. If you have diabetes, there's a cause. There's a root cause. Something inside of you is not right. And God gave us an amazing system. If you have a migraine, that's a gift. Look at that as a gift to say, there's something wrong inside of you that you're getting this migraine. If you have weight problems, that's a gift. It's inflammation. There's something wrong inside your body that's causing that inflammation. And I wanted to learn more. I wanted to learn what the cause, the root cause of these diseases are. The root cause of a headache, the root cause of high blood pressure, the root cause of diabetes, the root cause of inflammation, the root cause of fibromyalgia, the root cause of cancer. I wanted to know. So I searched for a school in functional medicine. I looked at Functional Medicine University. I looked at Functional Diagnostic Nutrition School. And I looked at the School of Applied Functional Medicine with Tracy Harrison. I started my path to become a functional medicine practitioner. In July of 2017, I completed that path as a functional medicine practitioner and passed the board of certification with the School of Applied Functional Medicine and Tracy Harrison. Some of the board members on that board are Dr. Dr. Frank Lipman, Dr. Lytle, who's a naturopathic doctor, Dr. Riviera, who's a DC or a doctor of chiropractic. Also, Dr. Salisi, a naturopathic doctor. I am blessed and beyond blessed that God put Tracy Harrison in my life because I learned a lot and I study all the time. I read books on everything. I read a lot of books for this podcast, but I also read a lot of books on my own. If you look on my coffee table, I have a book of cellular metabolism. I have a book on detox and at a cellular level. My Kindle on my iPad is loaded with books. So I keep learning. And this year, 2018, I plan on going back to the School of Applied Functional Medicine for more learning. One thing I've learned through all this is forget about losing weight. Get your body healthy. If your body is healthy, you will lose the weight. It's physically impossible to be overweight and have a healthy body. Inflammation is there for a reason, and you need to get to the root cause of it to lose that weight. If you need help, let me help you figure out the reason, and let me help you get healthy. Now I want to touch base on the transition from Weight Loss at Last to Three Roses Wellness and what's ahead for Three Roses Wellness in the next year. You see, I started Weight Loss at Last during my time at IIN, and I kept that going for, until this year. So until late 2016. So I kept that going for 2 years. And I had some clients and I helped a lot of people. And for that, I'm grateful. But I realized that God has given me a greater purpose in the world. And I want to give back. So I thought to myself, how can I give back? Hence, Three Roses Wellness. I want to help those who struggle with disease. So I switched gears and changed the name to Three Roses Wellness. And you might be asking yourself, Tom, Three Roses Wellness sounds kind of girly. Really? But let me tell you where Three Roses came from. On my right arm, covering my ex-wife's tattoo. Yeah, I got a tattoo with my ex-wife on there. I highly recommend you don't do that. I have a picture of Jesus and three roses. So that's where Three Roses came from. But I also decided that when you are ill, you're busy praying to God for your health. But when you're healthy, you can spend more time serving God and the kingdom. Also, as a nation, we no longer have a healthcare epidemic. We have a healthcare crisis. And it's not good. And it's not going away. Chris Kresser just wrote a book, matter of fact, about the healthcare system. And he predicts that we will be bankrupt as a nation by 2040 at the pace we're going if something doesn't give. So I researched Three Roses and where it comes from. And once again, I went to Google. Three Roses on my arm, especially, represents the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, the Trinity. Three Roses also indicates abiding love, life, and light. Also, according to Christian lore, a rose bush was said to have grown at the site of Christ's death. The red from the rose serving as the blood, and the thorns from the rose bush symbolizing the ultimate sacrifice. A rose with 8 petals is also a message of rebirth and renewal. Three roses are symbolic of a guiding principle. A red rose stands for sacrifice, immortal love, health, memorial, and passion. So I put it all together and came up with Three Roses Wellness. The mission statement, the vision statement, and value statement for Three Roses Wellness. I'm going to read those to you. Don't want to listen? Just speed through it. Push the speed through button. The vision encourage and serve others to experience a healthy and holistic life every day. My mission, or the mission of Three Roses, is coach those trapped in unhealthy lifestyles to attain optimum health through quality nutrition and holistic health choices, honoring the life God has given them. The values: Christ-centered, inspirational change, trusting relationships, individual empowerment, personal integrity, life-affirming methods, and caring guidance. So there's where we're at today. To sign up for my monthly newsletter, text RHCP, that's Rebel Health Coach Podcast, or Red Hot Chili Peppers, to 22828. Again, that's RHCP to 22828. Thank you and have an awesome day. In 2018, Three Roses will become a 501(c)(3). But the IRS does not make that an easy task, and it costs a lot of money to do. So it's going to take some money, but I'm going to do it in 2018. On my site, I have an application for assistance. So if you are in need of reversing a disease such as diabetes, but don't have the funds to do so, I have an application for assistance. Now, this doesn't mean you're not going to pay anything. This means that I will help you, and we will talk about how much you can afford to pay. Because you're going to pay somebody either way. Plus, the money that you spend with me will reverse the disease, and it will get you off the medications, saving you money. Plus, the money that you spend from the program will go into a kitty to help other people. Plus, if you don't have any skin in the game, you're not going to complete my program. I guarantee that. I've tried. I've coached many people for free, and they don't make it. They don't make it past a month. They don't make it past. They have nothing to gain. They have no skin in the game. So there's a little skin in the game here. But it's there, and I can help you, and I will help you. So in the meantime, I've set up a 20-minute complimentary consultation with me. Yes, 20 minutes is not a long time, but it's enough time to see if I am a good fit for you. Because I might not be. You might not like my approach. You might not like me, and I'm okay with that. Also, it will help to see if you're a good fit for me. This is a completely free of charge 20-minute consultation. And I will leave the link to the website in the show notes. But you go to the main page and you click on this big red Start Your Revolution button in the middle of the page. This will then take you to my HIPAA compliant site to pick a date and time to schedule our 20-minute conversation. Once you pick your date and time, you'll have to fill out the intake form so I can see what I'm looking at before we talk. So pick a date a couple weeks out, allowing yourself enough time to fill out the form itself and enough time for me to review it before we talk. During this talk, we will discuss the next steps and what I can do to help you. And we'll go from there. And the next step will be a 1-hour consultation. And that we will go through in detail. Okay, now on to the Rebel Health Coach and the Rebel Health Coach podcast and how it all started. In November of 2015, I went to a health coach summit or retreat in Port St. Lucie, Florida, November of 2015. And who doesn't want to be in Port St. Lucie, Florida, on a beach at a resort in November? At this resort was a group of people that I have got to know through the health coach group on a Facebook page, Facebook group, not a page. And we were there to talk about a lot of things, health coaching being one of them. And the opening night ceremony or opening night meet and greet, I met a lot of people that I've become friends with through this group on Facebook. And I walked up that night with short sleeve shirt on and jeans and flip-flops with a cigar in my pocket and tattoos on both arms. And yes, I had a glass of bourbon in my hand. You see, I enjoy a fine cigar and I enjoy a glass of good libations. So they decided, this group of ladies, that I don't fit the mold of a health coach, which I don't. And frankly, I'm happy with that. That's the way God made me. Hence the name, the Rebel Health Coach. Now, during this event, a now dear friend of mine, Shell Hamilton, of the Meditation Minis podcast and a former guest on the Rebel Health Coach podcast, episode 17, was there giving a talk on how to start a podcast and podcasting. You see where I'm going with this? And that was November of 2015. Rebel Health Coach podcast did not launch until last November, 2016. So it took me a whole year to get this thing going. It's a lot of work. Artwork, logos, equipment, recording devices. Anyway, she gave her talk on podcasting and I decided, hey, I'm going to take this name, the Rebel Health Coach, and make a podcast out of it. One of the first steps was to trademark the name. So the Rebel Health Coach is trademarked. And the next step was to buy microphones. Next step was to record. Next step was to write a little episode to record. But you see, I'm a perfectionist. And I also have OCD. So everything has to be just right. And I tried hard to record and edit my own podcast. My first podcast episode was 12 minutes long. It took me 2 hours to edit that thing, and I still wasn't done. So frustration set in. And I'm smart enough to know that if I can't do it, I can find somebody who can and help me. So I reached out to a gentleman by the name of Scott, who I was also in a podcast group on Facebook with called the Podcast Discovery Center. And I scheduled some time with him and decided to hire him on as my coach, my podcast coach. And he helped me set up everything for the most part, except for the podcast production. But he knew somebody. I know. He knew a guy. Everybody has that story. I know a guy. We've all heard, I know a guy. But Scott introduced me to Cody of the Podcast Masters, which is now my podcast production team, Cody, Ben, and Hayden. Without them, this would all still be a dream. And I'd still be trying to edit that 15-minute episode. Believe me. Cody, Ben, and Hayden are amazing. And I am very, very grateful to Scott for the introduction. And I'm beyond grateful for Cody, Ben, and Hayden. I record the episodes on Zoom. I load the episode into Dropbox and share that Dropbox folder with them, and they edit it. Ben does the show notes. Hayden does the editing. And they do all the work. It goes, I just leave it with them with my show notes that I've written for the episode. They do it all over again. Ben does a fantastic job. He's an amazing writer, a very creative individual with a very creative mind. Hayden's an amazing sound engineer. And I'll give you a little story about Hayden here. During the 3-part episode on breast cancer with Deborah Beaumont, that was episode 18, 23, and 24, if you'd like to go back and listen. Deborah lives in Hawaii, and Deborah has some birds. 2 birds. They're pet birds, and they're in the house, and they fly, and they do what birds do. She has them in the house, and birds make noise. Let's be honest. But these birds were not happy they weren't getting her attention during this recording. So they were not happy, and they were screeching up a storm and chirping and doing what birds do. And during the recording, I made light of it, saying, hey, the birds want in on this, Deborah. Let's get them in on this. It's not their fault. And I was okay with it. But I said to myself, Hayden's got his work cut out for him. Well, when the episodes get released on Monday, the first thing I do on every other Monday when my episode gets released is I listen to the episode. And I didn't hear the birds. And I was like, okay, that's amazing. Whatever Hayden did, those freaking birds disappeared. Freaking amazing. I cannot thank this team enough, and I'm beyond grateful for them. And I hope I get to meet them someday and have a beer with them and maybe even a cigar. Anyway, here we are today, 28 episodes in and more to come. I've had some great episodes and I've had some amazing guests. And I would like to thank them all individually, but that will take some time. And I don't need to read a list of them, but I'm very grateful for the guests that I've had on this past year. Sean Croxton was episode number 4. Sean Croxton has an amazing podcast called Quote of the Day Show. I highly recommend you go listen to it. I'm grateful for him for taking a chance and coming on my show. I'm grateful for Jimmy Moore, the ketogenic guy, for coming on my show. I'm grateful for each guest I've had over the past year. Tara Gessling, Sean Croxton, as I mentioned, Jimmy Moore, my buddy Jason Colleran was on the show talking about going from the couch to the gym. I interviewed Amanda Buse, who's a great friend, about kombucha. Another good friend of mine I became friends with over the last year is James Broderick of Ancestral Health Radio. Dan DeFigio, Tracy Harrison, my teacher. Lisa Jackson, one of my classmates, talking about her book, 7 Steps to Optimal Health. Heather Conley, talking about fibromyalgia. Shell Hamilton about meditation. Deborah Beaumont about cancer. Dr. Pompa for coming on. Thank you. Talking about autoimmune disease and the 3-legged stool. Stephen Cabral, I can't thank you enough for coming on my show and talking about CBD oil. Kristen Kramer, Deanna Perlman, Julian Hayes II, Kelly Lutman, Tony Labresse just was on my show, the last episode on testosterone, why your manhood is slowly seeping away. Now on to moving forward, I've got Matt Walrath with Mike Beyond Macros. I have also coming up this year, I have one of my personal favorites, Ben Greenfield of the Ben Greenfield Fitness Podcast. And a little side note on this story of Ben Greenfield is I was at a conference in May at the Marriott Hotel in Buckhead here in Atlanta. It's an HCF seminar. HCF stands for Health Center of the Future, and they do conferences around the nation to educate and train healthcare practitioners, chiropractors, students, and medical doctors to educate them basically on the modern day epidemic of disease so that they can serve the question, why am I sick? At this particular conference that I went to was Dr. Mercola was speaking, Dr. Pompa was speaking, and Ben Greenfield was speaking. Well, Rebel Health coach Tom decided to become a fanboy that night. Ben Greenfield walked off the stage, walked over to his laptop, and was sitting there working. And I saw Ben get up and head towards the restroom. Yeah, you know where I'm going with this. But I didn't follow him into the restroom. I'm a fanboy, but I didn't follow him into the restroom. I waited in the hall. I know. Kind of odd. Anyway, Ben walked out of the restroom towards me, and I had a card in my hand, and I said, Ben, my name is Tom Underwood. I love your podcast. I also have a podcast called The Rebel Health Coach. I would like to invite you on my show, and I would love you to join me. I know that I am just a small fish in a very large pond in this health and wellness realm, but I'd love to have you on my show. He said, you know what? Absolutely. He said, I will email you tonight before I go to sleep and give you the name of my assistant to book the podcast. And, I was excited, but I was thinking, you know what? He might not email me, but that's okay. Anyway, I got home that night and I had an email from Ben Greenfield with his assistant. I sent his assistant my calendar and she booked a date to record the podcast January 3rd of 2018. So I am super geeked to have Ben Greenfield on my show. And I'm super geeked to share that with you, the listeners. Anyway, so I want to go into a little bit more of the podcast. Basically, at this point, I have 3,500 downloads, which is not a whole lot for 27 episodes, but I'm happy with it. And I thank my listeners. The Rebel Health Coach podcast is also listened to in over 36 countries across the globe, including Trinidad. Yeah, I've got somebody that listens to me in Trinidad. I also just received word that now the Rebel Health Coach podcast is available on iHeartRadio, which I'm ecstatic about. So iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and there's another app I'm trying to think of that I really like called Overcast that you can listen to the Rebel Health Coach podcast on, or you can just go to the website and listen to it. So I'm listened to in over 36 countries across the globe. Also, something that puts fuel in my tank to keep going are the listeners that send me comments. Here's a comment from a listener, Amanda. Amanda actually sent me a text. She said, "Good morning. I wanted to tell you that I really enjoy your podcast. They are inspiring and full of such good information. I'm really proud of you for all your accomplishments and continued drive to be a better you. You make a difference, and it's beautiful." Also, from the Three Roses business page on Facebook, this was in response to the 3-part series on breast cancer with Deborah Beaumont. This comes from Peggy. "I learned more listening to these talks than I did through any of my doctors. Thank you." I replied to Peggy and said, "Thank you for listening to the show, Peggy. That is why I do what I do." Her response was, "Tom Underwood, please keep doing it." That puts fuel in my tank. And I am grateful for that. Now, there's also, you can go to iTunes and rate and review the show, and there's some rating and reviews on there currently. I have 3. So if you would like to go to iTunes and rate and review the show, it'd be much appreciated. I want to say I'm grateful for those who have been on my show, taking the time out of their busy schedule to be on my show. But most of all, I am beyond grateful for the listeners like you who have taken the time to listen to me babble, especially this episode, but also listen and give me feedback. It's why I do what I do and why I cover so many different topics in health and wellness, because there's so many to cover. Also, because of my show, I've had the pleasure of recording a 3-part meditation series for a podcast called Mind Shift Meditations, a project of Shell Hamilton, my friend, and Jose Ong. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Me leading you, the listener, through a meditation. I kind of laughed at it to myself, to be honest with you. But it came out quite well. Part 1 of the 3 parts is out, and that's episode 7. You can go there and listen to it. I will leave the link in the show notes. Also, recently, I've had the pleasure of being interviewed by Ingle Jones of a podcast called 12-minute Combos with Engel Jones. And that episode will be coming out around the 1st of December. So look for that. 12-minute Combos with Engel Jones. Great little show, by the way. It has been a journey in itself, and I'm so grateful for the guests, like I said. But I am also grateful for you, the listener. And thank you very much. Now, in closing, I've got a little housekeeping for the show. One, you can go to my website and sign up for my monthly newsletter and get my free ebook. Or if you want my monthly newsletter, you can text RHCP to 22828. Also, if you'd like to take advantage of my complimentary 20-minute consultation, you can go to my website and click on the Start My Revolution button. But remember to pick a time a couple weeks out so you can fill out the intake form, and I have time to review your intake form before our call. Last but not least, I'd like to dedicate this episode to my father. November 20th is his birthday. May he rest in peace. Thank you, and thank you for listening. God bless.
Thank you for joining in today with the Rebel Health Coach, Tom Underwood. And be sure to subscribe to the show so you can catch all the episodes. With desire and commitment, you can implement a lifestyle of wellness and fitness. For the support, encouragement, and tools you need to be successful, visit tomunderwood.net.